allow the police to provide security. But as we know, the police in Kenya don't provide security to protesters. They harm them. So giving them notice means you're giving them notice to harm you. You don't need notice to protest on your own streets. You just need to go there. And if you decide to go there, say tomorrow, you just go there in large numbers and you approach State House. State House is actually public property. I'm amazed that Kenyans argue that it is a protected area. All public space should be protected anyway, but State House should be open for people to visit, should they choose to do so. It's not a military barrack. State House is supposed to be where the president stays after people granted him permission to do so. Should the people withdraw that permission and they want to occupy it and evict the person that has become rogue, I think the citizens should feel that they have full power to do so under Article 1 of the Constitution. The same power that you have under the Constitution to visit Parliament and to go there and take the mace is the same power that allows you to go to State House. So legally, no, there is no requirement to give notice. And in any event, politically, strategically, it is dangerous to do so.
Was, and in fact this very upset a lot of people when I posted out there and say do anything you want to do within the law but just leave that house alone, because I was looking at it from the point of view that actually the State House as it is being having the symbol that it has, the people who've lived there have just been there for like 10 years, whatever years, and then they go. So looking at it from the point of view of a commander-in-chief of the defense force being in there, the moment the citizens are coming, and sometimes these demonstrations are also infiltrated, unfortunately, what role, because of course he also has his security there, isn't there a chance of escalation when actually his security wants to protect him and whisk him out? That was, Dr. If you can clarify
Yeah,
that. Yeah.
yeah, Maj. A lot of people don't understand that Ruto will be gone by the time people reach Serena Hotel. He would be gone by helicopter. He would not wait for people to reach State House. A lot of people don't understand that he may not even have been in town when there were demonstrations reaching Parliament. You don't know how cowardly these people are. But on top of that, it is disempowering to the people to tell them, to scare them away, to sell fear to them. Because all these revolutions we've been talking about, those places were also guarded. The French guarded their emperor. Ceausescu was more guarded than Ruto. The Philippines guarded their president more than Ruto. Compore, a military man, guarded himself more than Ruto. Let's not sell fear to the people. Mugabe guarded himself. 1 million people cannot be shot on the streets. That would be suicide for Ruto. So let's not sell fear to our citizens. Our citizens have the power to take power that they donated to Ruto, and they can do that directly at State House. And I can assure you, once you have 1 million people marching to State House, there will be no shot fired. These police officers and the military will join the crowd. They will protest against Ruto. And Ruto will be gone before you can say hello.
Thank you so much, Dr. for answering me. Let's go by Hillary. Over to you.
Who's coming next, Mike?
Next, I'm
Okay.
having Ndegwa, Neto, and then KDR TV.
Thank you very much. and most obliged to be granted this opportunity. I pass my regards to Daktari Miguna and the CJ and Tony Gashok and everyone else. I am one of the proponents of believing that we must use constitutional means to dislaunch William Ruto, and that all the constitutional tools must be put to test, and then we resort to extra constitutional means in the event the available constitutional tools fails. The last time I was on space, I made a proposal of the impeachment, but I also looked at the other constitutional tool that is available in the Constitution in respect of Article 144, and I'll still merge it together with Article 145 that deals with the question of the impeachment, even as we await the answer from Dr. Chief Justice Emeritus. When you look at the question of removal of the president on ground of incapacity, the Constitution provides that the National Assembly, supported by at least a quarter of all members, may move a motion for the investigation of the president's physical and mental capacity. If you look at the threshold of the process, we just need a quarter of the members of parliament to move this. Then the Constitution further says that if it is supported by majority of all the members of the National Assembly. So the threshold is very, very clear and a threshold that can easily be achieved. Then it further says that upon the resolution of Parliament, that resolution shall be passed over to the Chief Justice, who within 7 days will constitute a tribunal to investigate the health status of the president to govern. I believe if we can explore the possibility of using that particular tool, we may not be too far from getting hold of William Ruto. If you compare the process of the removal on ground of incapacity and you compare on removal on ground of impeachment, the impeachment provides that you require a third, at least a third of the members, and then to move the motion, and then you require at least 2/3 of the members to vote for the motion. So I believe these tools are some of the tools that can be explored in terms of trying to dislodge Ruto. Why? Because if we get out of the constitution, we may never ever get back to that particular route. Number two, Mr. William Ruto being rogue and being what he is, there is nothing that stops him from also saying but that because the citizens have now abrogated the constitution, that he may also resort to very extra constitutional means of trying to retain power. And that extra constitutional means may be a very bloody process because he'll be saying, I am in the office, I have the police, I have the army, I have the support. So he may also use very extra constitutional means. That is why, in
Wakili,
my view, yes,
Wakili, can you land?
well, I think those are some of the proposals I would perhaps be making. As I land on the question of the mainstream media, we need to boycott them so that we may rally they may rally behind the movement of the people. Number three, as I sum up, we must dislodge the current political status quo, and we need to have a hashtag of the hashtag of the status quo must fall, so that we completely get away from the embarrassment we found yesterday in KICC, that the people who believes in dialogue were in KICC yesterday. Those who believes in good governance and accountability are meeting where we are meeting. Thank you.
Thank you so much.
Thank you so much.
Over to you, Hilary, and then I see that Terry wants to chime in.
Yeah. Thank you so much, Wakili. Dr.
Yeah,
Miguna.
subject to us hearing from CJ Mutunga, I just wanted to say quickly to Advocate Ndegwa three things. Number one, uh, the problem with the lawyers who are focused on the black letter law is that they get lost. This is bigger than black letter law. This is bigger than litigation. We are on the streets already, and it is already bloody. We have counted about 50 bodies that Ruto has piled up. So talking of blood is a red herring because we already have blood on the street. Our people have already been killed. But more fundamentally, and I want you to think broadly, I want you to think outside the box. We are squarely within the Constitution. Article 1 is part of the Constitution. How can anybody say that power being exercised by the people under Article 1 is extra constitutional, is outside the Constitution? Yet that is the first article you read. Why should you go to the other articles and you leave the first one that gives you power? That's number 2. Number 3, impeachment is a non-starter. It's actually a big joke. Anybody who mentions impeachment and mentions it seriously may not know what they're talking about or what they're doing. We are not going to get into some exercise into futility. You're talking about people who cannot even impeach a governor? I mean, how many governors have been impeached? 2 in the history of the Constitution? I mean, Sonko and his brother from the guy from Kiambu. That's it. And yet we have crooks all over. And then you're talking about impeaching a president. You're impeaching a president who controls the entire parliament and now controls the so-called opposition also. Didn't he just parade all of them yesterday? That's the entire parliament he paraded yesterday. You're talking about the people whom basically mutilated the conflict of interest law. And they all voted as a block, 25 of them, with no senator voting no. Even the ones that are purporting now to be with the people did not even dare attend to cast their votes and say no. All of them voted unanimously. These are the people you say can impeach a president? My friend, let us not joke too much. We already have too many people suffering, many people abducted, too many people killed, families grieving, and then we bring them this. This would be to castrate the revolution. This would be to make it useless, to give people hope which is completely empty. It would be to divert our energies and anger into nothing. It's almost like the people who are telling us, let's sue Ruto. Sue him where? How? And how are you going to enforce the court orders? Because the court orders must be enforced by the police. So how would you get Ruto out of State House with the police that he controls? Please, let us think strategically. Let us not think like people who just went to law school to study black letter law and do not have the common sense to come out of it.
Thank you so much, Daktari. Maj, as you come in, thank you so much. I see Tony Gachoka carry his hand, but I want to give Neto. Then Tony Gachoka, you can also submit yours. Neto, then Tony Gachoka. I know you are the guest, but Neto, go ahead.
Thank you very much, Hilary.
But also, Mheshimiwa, as you
Is
come
it
in,
me?
we want to remind everybody that let us have socialize. It means that let us follow each other as possible, so that when we have all these spaces, you're aware of what is happening.
Hello, Maj.
Mheshimiwa, go ahead.
Thank
Yes,
you very much.
yes. Sorry, just a moment. Kibato, I can hear you. Probably you cannot hear people. Neto is speaking in a moment. If you cannot hear him speak, then please leave the space and come back. We'll add you to the mic. Over to you, Neto. Yeah.
Thank you very much, Marge. Thank you, Hillary. I'll try to use my 2 minutes. I'm here not to ask questions, but to support my friends, Dr. Miguna, and also Dr. Willie Mutunga, my very good friends. I will rearrange my many points, but maybe it's a good place to start from where Dr. Miguna has left. The other things I'll be saying will be more signposts for him and Dr. Mutunga then to maybe expound on. But the first one, Dr. Miguna, I think there is nothing wrong in reading the black letter law. I just think that what Wakili Ndegwa doesn't understand is that constitutions need to be read in a continuum. Because if you look at the provisions of Article 146 of the Constitution of Kenya, it also provides for the president of Kenya resigning. And what we're doing is very constitutional. You know, the right to picket. I mean, of course, you've mentioned very well Article 1 with regard to the sovereignty of the people, Article 37, the right to picket, Article 146. The reasons why people picket is to present petitions and prayers to the people in office. And one of the things we were asking the president is to resign on the provisions of Article 146. So there's nothing extra constitutional about that. I agree with Dr. Miguna to the extent that an impeachment process is dead on arrival. So let's not even think about it. But there's nothing wrong with what Kenyans are doing right now, the protests, the pickets, to the extent that we succeed in getting President Ruto out of office within the provisions of Article 146 of the Constitution. That's very constitutional. The second thing I'd like to say, which is going to be my first point, was that I think there is the call for dialogue by Raila Odinga, I think was wrong-founded. Wrong-founded because as I listened to Dr. Tony Gashoka historicize the movement, as well as Dr. Miguna and Dr. Willie, you know, all the things we're asking President William Ruto to do, some of them are within the provisions of Article 73 of the Constitution. It talks about accountability of leadership, talks about competence, it talks about integrity. That's all there. So what we're asking William Ruto and his deputy to do is to stick to the provisions of constitutionalism and the rule of law. And you know, broadly speaking, constitutionalism is the fact that just do things as per what the Constitution is asking you to do. That's number one. But number two, let the rules apply across board for everyone else, so that it is not that for some people it's not clear. The third thing that I wanted to say,
Neto, maybe just to emphasize on what Daktari was saying, I think it is so clear that with the kind of legislators that we have, it will be a waste of time you taking anything to Parliament. These are the same people that passed on the finance bill that was rejected by everyone in the country apart from a few elites. They are the same people who were, even when the demonstration was about to get to Parliament, they were in there forcing to ensure that because of time they passed that bill. They did. They ran into the tunnels so that they can hide themselves. The next day, when the president rejected the bill, on his or they were behind him clapping. So really, that is not a house of honor. There is nothing that you can take there and it can be passed. The same way that Daktari is asking, do we really have an opposition? These people were yesterday lined, both parties, ODM and Kenya Kwanza. They are the majority in parliament. They make like 99% of the representation. So where will you take this impeachment motion to? It is just an issue of common sense, if you ask me as well.
Thank you very much. And I agreed completely with Dr. Miguna. And I said that an impeachment motion is a non-starter. However, I said a constitution is ready in its continuum. And if you look at Article 146 of the Constitution of Kenya, it provides for a president's resignation. And what we're doing is very constitutional to get President Ruto out of office. There is nothing unconstitutional in picketing to the extent that the president gets out of office. I'm not asking about an impeachment motion, so I think that's what I wanted you to understand. So two things before my minutes then run out is two things I'd like to clarify. There have also been calls by Kenyans that there needs to be like something, a dissolution of parliament. If you look at the provisions of Article 102 of the Constitution right now, it does not anticipate a dissolution of parliament. So one of the things we must do is to succeed in getting President Ruto out of power. Then, with the constitution of IEBC, which is what we must fast track also, and we must be vigilant about that, is to then use a recall process to make sure that we send the other parliamentarians home. The other reason why I was opposed to Raila's call for dialogue is that when President Ruto agreed to meet Gen Zs on the X space, there was no conversation about dialogue. There was no conversation about selecting 150 people. The conversation was very simple.
NATO tried to land so that I think your 2 minutes are done, and we have over 200 speakers on the queue.
Yeah,
so please land so that they can give the mic to someone else.
Yeah, could you please just give Neto a little bit more time, please,
that's
to
what I
finish?
wanted to say. Neto, I'm going to give you some of my 2 minutes. Please proceed. I know there's a reason why, because the legal thing is it's interesting, and we want to also have that clarification. So please proceed to finish without interruption.
Thank you, Marge. And I just said the things I'm talking about will be extrapolated by Dr. Miguna and the Chief Justice. So 3 things then. One, I said, part of the conversations that we had was that there was no request by the Gen Zs for President Ruto to constitute a dialogue phase, because what the Gen Zs were asking for the president is to play by the constitution by sacking the corrupt ministers, sacking the people who are incompetent, and that is very clear. There's nothing that you need dialogue about. And if you see, look at the TGRC report, look at the Ndungu report, look at the Waki report, look at the post-election violence report, Agenda 1, Agenda 2, and 3. So Kenya is replete with reports that just need to be implemented. So for Raila Odinga to request us to go for another dialogue session is to make sure he's misusing us like he's always misused people previously. And you must understand one thing with Raila Odinga is that he always wants to disrupt things. If he's not at the center of those activities, then he also wants to disrupt them. So I really think that in this particular instance, we cannot allow him to disrupt us. The third thing I wanted to say is the issue of public debt and an audit of the public debt. The reason why you might have seen Raila and his friends come out in the open is because you remember Raila being part of Uhuru's handshake, was part of the Chinese debt, was part of all these things. So they know for a fact that an audit or an opening of the public debt puts them all in the same corner. So what would I request of us to do in the next couple of weeks? Number one, I think we need to focus the revolution. We need to focus the revolution, and Gen Zs did a good job by starting the revolution, but I really think that right now we need all hands on deck. We've been on this particular call with all these veterans, CJ Willie, Dr. Miguna, who started these calls earlier on. I think we need all hands on deck. Let the Gen Zs do their role, which they've been doing very well. Let the millennials do it because it's for country. So that at least let's focus so that when the part of leadership comes through, then let the Gen Zs, of course, then take over power in the way that they please. But let everyone else play their role. The last thing I'd like to say is the next weeks of IBC appointment. That's going to be the frontier where we must fight Ruto and Raila in a way that gives us what we deserve. You've seen the way it's always possible to manipulate IBC commissioners. The law right now as it stands is very skewed in favor of Raila and in favor of President Ruto, because 5 out of the 9 people to be appointed as the selection panel are all going to be from political parties. That definitely gives them an advantage in terms of who then becomes on board. So I think even though we might be disadvantaged in terms of where we're starting from, I think that space is going to be for eternal vigilance, because then like people on how then does Gachagua become president, which is even more horrendous than the current president. So I really think that clarion call should be for both of them. Of course, Ruto must go, Gachagua must go, but of course, when both of them go, and there are constitutional ways of doing that. If you look at the provisions of Article 143, once the president has gone, you can also throw away the deputy president, and then, of course, there's an election in 60 days. So that, of course, then still within the constitution. So that people like Ndego have no business getting worried. We will make sure the president resigns within the provisions of Article 146. We will make sure the deputy president resigns within the provisions of Article 143 and 144, and we shall have an election in 60 days where Gen Zs and other Kenyans can then put in the kind of president they want. Thank you very much, Maggie.
Thanks so much, Neto. And yes, and Tony, you're next. Thanks for your submissions there. And Tony, take a go, and then Mkenya, your question.
Thank you. I just want to address the issue of fear and the issue you raised about marching to State House. Because, look, these issues that we are taking are not easy. It was Winston Churchill who said that of all the virtues of a man, there is nothing more important than courage. We would not have got the finance bill retracted had people not risked their lives and marched. We would not have the IBC panel now appointed had there been no this protest and this sacrifice of so many Kenyans, because even the NADCO report was not able to give birth to that. And I want to remind Kenyans what happened in 2002 when Mwai Kibaki won the presidency. President Moi came to Uhuru Park and the public went crazy. Moi must go, Moi must go. And he had all the security and everything there, but nobody was holding back Uhuru Park. I want to associate myself with what Miguna had said earlier. I think this country has not reached the point of critical mass. When we reach a point of critical mass, we are so many of us that they will be all scared of us. I was watching last week all MPs apologizing. I'm so sorry I didn't listen to Jay-Z. I'm so sorry I didn't listen, because they can't go home. I want to be, because these people listen to this space, and I know many from State House and intelligence are listening. The reason they bring out the army is to scare you. The reason they shot all these people, even 12-year-old boy, is because they want to scare Kenyans. Fear is that is their merchandise. If we buy fear and we start now looking like we want to be apologetic, we want to do IPPG, we want to do small things, as Miguna says, the black law, letter of the law, we are going to begin to lose that momentum. What is important, no dialogue, no talks, and no retreat means, are we ready to march and to march even up to State House? Who would have believed would have got it into Parliament? Who would have believed that Ruto can refuse to sign the Finance Bill 2024? Who can believe even now the military is hiding? Although they are deployed, they don't want to be seen in the public. We are winning this war because we are courageous and we have no fear. Let them not even think we have any fear at all. I want to stop there.
Thank you so much. Dr. Miguna, do you want to chime in before we go to KDR News, or should we
No,
proceed?
no, go ahead.
Okay,
Go ahead.
thank
Go
you.
ahead.
KDR News, then Esperance, then Kenya.
Thank you very much, Maj, Dr. Miguna, my good friend, and CJ Emeritus, Dr. Mutunga. I'm a little bit confused here because the law which was rejected, but technically I'm not a lawyer, that's why I need people like Dr. Miguna to come in and really tell us what is the, I mean, right now, where are we with the rejected bill? We've not actually had anything, and as per the explanations, Dr. Miguna, I heard you last time, you said that after 14 days, and that's what is the constitution, the law becomes effective. So where are we right now? And what can we do to salvage that particular law? And not really salvage, but just completely eradicate it. The other thing I also need to get from the legal minds is the aspect of, I mean, not really the aspect, but where are we with the real data of the people who are killed? I've tried to put my team in the field to get some more data, also more clarification, but they are getting a lot of pushback. Dr. Tony, I'm really having a very serious issue with getting the data from the hospitals, the data from the police. So up to now, even the 41 gallant members of the Gen Z who were killed, we don't really have a clear data and what really killed them, because what we also need when we are writing even articles, we really need to get facts right. So I'm still really having a very difficult time getting those data, getting the post-mortem, and up to now. So we are really having a very terrible situation down there. What can we really do to ensure we get this data, we get this information, and probably even file suits to ensure that these people have been brought to book? And then the other thing, when President Ruto is telling our Gen Z or our millennial or people like X, like, I mean, people older, all like us, what are we really going to do to ensure these people, especially the policemen, are brought to book? Why does he talk of dialogue? Why does Raila Amolo Odinga talk of dialogue while our people from our community in Kisumu down there, over 75 people were killed, and they were being pulled from their houses, from their huts, being clobbered to death, but nothing has actually been done. So I would also love the opposition to tell us exactly what have they done with the people who are killed. Right now, as we are speaking, there are people who are still getting abducted. The Gen Zs are being sent very weird messages threatening them and all that. So what kind of dialogue are they telling us while people are still being forced from their houses? They are being forced to abandon their just cause. I'm really having a lot of pain. And to finish up my 2 minutes, I'm still having a lot of pain. One of my sisters, I've actually seen her here, Dr. Kombe, when she was running from Kenya. Every media house really got scared of writing the articles about her abduction. Well, our media house, through a friend of ours from the airport, gave us the information. We didn't fear. We wrote those articles. So if you've got any information which deems to better the lives of Kenyans, send it our way so that we can publish it. If you have got good information, we can even interview you. If it's not on Twitter, if it's on YouTube or wherever situation you want us to publish your information, please bring it forward so that we can publish that information. So I really need some clarification from CJ Emeritus, Dr. Mutunga, or Dr. Miguna, or Dr. Tony. Thank you so much.
Thanks so much, KDR TV News. We go to Esperance and then Kenya.
Thank you very much. I'll be brief. So I'm just wondering, I have a couple of questions. The first one is, at what point do we declare these disappearances, abductions, these murders, crimes against humanity? Because these numbers are rising by the day, and I mean, the government seems to have some form of false sense of of immunity, which is very sad. At what point do we declare them crimes against humanity, and how then do we act? Do we wait for other people to act on our behalf, or how do we act individually to raise to let the world know that indeed there are crimes happening against humanity in Kenya? uh, I think Dr. Mutunga has dropped, but then I had a question for him. Maybe I was just wondering, as the first Chief Justice post 2010 Constitution, where did we lose it as a country in that one? Is the judiciary independent when it comes to draft? We've seen when this Kenya Kwanza government came in, we just saw cases being dropped one after the other, one after the other in a very sequential manner. Number two, the issue of, I had him mention the issue of cattle rustling in I mean, why are we glorifying robbery with violence in the name of cattle rustling? And is it something that cannot be stopped, or is there is more to it than meets the eye? Uh, the third one, the ESCC, IPOA, and all these, are they toothless dogs? If that's the case, then how do we then handle them? Should we do away with them if we cannot fight corruption? The third question, the gift of public participation. Is it just a gift on paper, or do we have M&E tools to put checks and balances on it? Because we are in this situation. What triggered us to this situation is the people we elected failed to involve the public in public participation. So we went to the streets. And then I'll just, this is my suggestion. Can we break the system one department at a time, so that when uprooting one say when we picked Nakumincha, can we ensure she's gone? Then Ababu, because like right now Ababu's, there are questions on the people he's carried to Paris. We'd want to know, can we have it clear how many people have gone to Paris, and at what expense to the taxpayers' money, so that when we are pushing these agendas, tunafinya we inject until somebody goes. And then the person who asked, I think KDR TV News, who asked about data, I think because the government will not give us that data, I think that is HIPAA data, but we can get it from other CSOs like Badili Africa. I think Boniface Mwangi, I saw them working with those families, and they've been posting on their social sites because they sought consent from the families. And then the last one, I think the Gen Zs do not need dialogue at this point. The things they're asking for should be done. Somebody said that when the government doesn't want to solve your problems, they create commissions, task forces, and introduce bougie words like dialogue. At this point, tribal kingpins, perceived or real,